it's Shaily or EatBreatheBooks. I don't know what you know me as because I kind of tried to rebrand the channel as just my name, but some people are used to me saying, hey, it's EatBreatheBooks. So anyway, hello, thanks for clicking on this video. Today I wanted to talk about the books that I've been reading recently. I'm calling this an April wrap-up, but honestly I want to talk about the books I've been reading since January. And I wanted to first start with the two books that I'm in the middle of right now because I'm both loving them and they're very different from each other, and I don't think I'll finish them by today. Today's the last day of April, but I figure they deserve an honorable mention, so let's just start with those and then we'll dive into the books that I have read in the last few months. Read some really, really good ones, some really popular, some not getting as much hype, but I've been reading a lot of good books and I feel like they deserve the hype, so hopefully this video will convince some of you to check out some books that you may have not heard of before or you weren't sure if you should read. So I'm currently reading this one. I'm 75 pages in. This is Happy Place by Emily Henry, a highly anticipated read for me and I know a lot of other people. This is her fourth new adult book. I have loved all the other ones she's released. Beach Read, People We Meet on Vacation, Book Lovers, and I feel like with every single book she gets more and more into writing about the setting and the atmosphere and making the setting like a part of the story, almost making it feel like a character, which is some of my favorite kind of reading to write. Like I love the Summer I Turned Pretty series by Jenny Han because of the feeling I get when I read it. It makes me want to be in that house, makes me want to be in that beach town. And I'm getting that vibe here. I got the vibe with her last book, Book Lovers. I felt like I was in Sunshine Falls, that cute little small town. And I'm feeling it now. I feel like I am in this area in which they are. Basically, if you don't know what this is about, so the protagonist, she has a happy place. And her happy place is this home that one of her best friend's dads owns. And this home, she and her best friends have been visiting it for years, like at least 10 years at this point. It's their happy place. Even though they're going through different things in life and live different places, they come together in this home. It's a very special place to her, but now she has to say goodbye to it because they're about to sell the house. Well, the dad is about to sell the house, and so it's the last hurrah, so all the friends are there from college, including her ex-fiance, who she went out with for 10 years and then he broke it off. And like, we don't know why when we start reading the book. And the book takes place in different timelines. Like you get to see, the week as they're going through the week at the house currently, but also how she and the guy met and started dating and falling in love, which I'm really enjoying reading about their history. And there's fake dating involved, kind of, sort of, because like I said, they broke off their engagement, but they haven't told anybody, and two of the friends are actually getting married at the house by the end of the week, so they don't want to like ruin it for everybody by telling them this like sad news, especially because the other friends like look to their relationship for like inspiration to be together, kind of. So there's like fake dating ex-fiance vibes, and just the banter, of course, is so good. Sorry if you can hear any background noise, I have to keep this window open. Anyway, the banter, of course, is so good. Emily Henry excels at writing banter. Again, I love the atmosphere. I'm loving this, but I'm still reading it and I don't know if I'll finish today, and today's the last day of April, but I want to mention it anyway. And then here's another book that I've been reading this month that I'm not done with yet. It's called One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. I kind of bought this on a whim. I saw her post about it on Twitter and I thought it looked so interesting. Such a cool cover, such a cool title. And people have been talking about her work for a bit now. People really love The Atlas Paradox, Alone with You in the Ether. She's a very, what's the word for it? She can write in so many different genres and for so many different ages. Anyway, this one is about two different families in New York, told place in modern day, and they're witches and they hate each other. But there's a whole thing going on where like this brother from this family is in love with this daughter from this family. There's a lot of like forbidden love going on. There's like illegal activity going on. It's really interesting and really different from anything I've ever read, and I also love the format in which it's written. It's basically divided into 5 acts the way a Shakespeare play would. This title is taken from a Shakespeare play, and at the beginning of every act there's a quote from Shakespeare, and in between each act there's like a little informational page. Like one of them was like, here's every item that can be found inside of like the Federal family's warehouse. Like, it's just interesting. And there's a list of cast of characters, but it's not confusing. Once you start reading, it's really not confusing. And I'm just loving it. I'm loving it for the forbidden romance. And it's just something different. I don't read this kind of stuff a lot. My version is the Target version. I mean, maybe the other places have it too, but it came with some artwork. So this is like the family, one family of witches. And this is the other family. So there's a lot of like magic in here, which is really interesting and different. If you've read this book, definitely leave a comment down below letting me know, because I don't really know people who have read this or are reading it, but I do know that a lot of people love it. It was published a few years ago and then like republished through Tor. So that's that. Okay, now for the books I've actually like finished reading. Let's go back in time a little bit. Some of them I have on Kindle, and the first one here actually I don't even have a physical copy or a Kindle copy of. It's The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. I'll put the picture right here. My gosh, I love this so much. It's basically about this young woman who is a bodyguard for very high profile clients, and she gets this assignment to be the bodyguard of this A-list actor who hasn't done any work in the past couple of years, and he's at home right now in his family ranch taking care of his mom who's ill, and she has to be his bodyguard, but he doesn't want his mom to worry, so he tells her that they have to fake dating on a ranch. The banter is so good, and it wasn't like too Hollywood. Like I feel like some stories that deal with like Hollywood actors and things like that get a little bit like too Hollywood for me, and like maybe that's just because I've worked in Hollywood. It kind of makes me feel like I can't really escape, you know, because I'm reading about something I know about, if that makes sense. So this was the perfect escape because it like took place on a ranch, and again the banter was so good. It was so interesting also to hear about her being a bodyguard and like having the girl be the like protector in the situation and in their relationship. So if you're looking for something with really good banter, good vibes, and no spice, I'm not a spice person, I would highly recommend this one. And I'm so excited for her next book, Hello Stranger. I love her work. I literally in the middle of reading The Bodyguard ordered like 3 more of her books, so I definitely want to read something else by her soon. The next book that I want to talk about, I need to look at my Goodreads reading challenge because I have everything listed here. It's, okay, you know, I'm going to talk about 2 at the same time. So, Anne Liang, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering it. She recently came out with 2 books. If You Could See the Sun is her debut, and then like 2 months later she dropped This Time It's Real. These are both YA. This one has a little bit of a fantasy element to it, and this one is straight up contemporary rom-com. This one is about a girl who goes to a boarding school and she cannot afford to stay anymore, and she basically realizes that she can turn invisible, and so she starts monetizing that, like capitalizing on it, and basically like creates this app with her like nemesis at the school where they have these students pay them a ton of money to do tasks for them. So someone will be like, oh, please go into so-and-so's phone and delete these pictures of me, right? And so when she waits for like when she can turn invisible, and then she like deletes it. It's really, really good and full of suspense. Like it definitely kept me on my toes. I truly did not know how it was gonna go. I did not know what was gonna happen by the end. It was so, so, so good. If you're looking for a romance though, this has romance in it, but it's definitely a subplot. It is not the main plot. So if you are looking for something with a main plot being romance, I would check out This Time Is Real, which is about fake dating. A girl writes an essay about how she fell in love with this guy who doesn't exist. This famous actor like goes to her school, and they decide to fake date, and he agrees to be like the pretend boyfriend in it. And then what does he need out of it? I forgot what he needs out of the situation because they both obviously are in it for something, but the romance in it was like so sweet, like them realizing they actually have feelings for each other and it's not just pretend. Was really good. And I also, something I'll say that's very interesting, these both take place in Beijing, which the author has lived in for a portion of her life, and seeing the very 2 different ways in which she paints Beijing. This one's painted in a very like idealistic cotton candy skies kind of way, and this is painted in more of a look at how much so many people in the neighborhood this takes place in are struggling, like really seeing the different sides of Beijing in these stories. It takes place in the same place, but it almost felt like I was somewhere else. That was super interesting how she could write it from different perspectives and lenses, and like it was great. They're both so good. I really, 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 really recommend both of these books, and I'm so excited for her upcoming works. Like please check out these stories. Okay, the next book that I'm going to talk about, let me consult my Goodreads over here, is ooh, this is a heavy one. If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. Okay, this was actually published like 10 years ago, and the old cover is honestly kind of creepy. And I think if I had seen that cover, I wouldn't have even gone near the book, to be honest with you. Like, knowing myself, like I've definitely read my fair share of sad books. I have like an old video on my channel called Recommending Sad Books or Books That Made Me Cry. Definitely read my fair share of sad books, but in the last couple of years I've made an effort to not read sad books or to read less of them because they really, really can have an effect on me and like how I'm feeling. I just get so attached to the characters and I really feel like they're real people, so it's hard for me to read like sad stuff. So I had been seeing this around online a lot on like Book Talk and on BookTube too, and I saw it at Barnes & Noble and I picked it up and it didn't feel right. I kind of just felt like I shouldn't read this book. And I put it back down and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna do it. And then I went another time to the same Barnes & Noble and I saw it and I was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna do it. The pain that this book caused me, like, right when you read the book, at the literally in the prologue, it tells you what's gonna happen, right? And like, you know what's coming. But you don't know how, why, and like a ton of the details are missing. So by the time you get to the end, it's just crushing. And honestly, I have my qualms about this book. Like, this book disturbed me so much. I will say it's a beautiful book, like beautifully, gorgeously written. I was intrigued the entire time. I didn't find it boring at all. I was invested in the story. It's basically about this girl who's been in love with her best friend for a long time and is basically like not telling him because she's afraid, and she's watching him be with someone else and she's with someone else, and it's like this story of like soulmates who should be together but they're not. It's constantly heartbreaking, right? But something about like towards the ending, honestly, if the last 10 pages in this book didn't exist, like I would be recommending this book left and right, I think. But something about the ending was so tragic and like harrowing in the way that it was written, and it kept bothering me. I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I basically stalked the author's like old blog where she was responding to like really sweet fan messages and stuff, and she was talking about what she thought the message of the book was. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I don't think that was actually her intention when she wrote it. And if it was, she didn't execute it properly. And that's not to say that she's untalented, that this book isn't beautiful, that I don't love this book. It's just that the lesson that she thought that readers should get from this story, I couldn't fully get because the ending was written in too vague and harrowing of a way to truly get that message across to the point where the reader would actually believe that the protagonist has learned that lesson. Does that make sense? I really don't like coming on here like bashing books. I don't think I'm bashing it. I just want you to know that if you're going to read this book, be careful. Trigger warning, content warnings, have tissues with you, and be ready. If you don't think that you're ready to read this, don't read it. Am I gonna read the companion novel she's releasing in October? Possibly. I might end up reading it. Because I really did love it. Would I read this book again? Maybe years from now when I feel more ready to dive into it again. Will I skip the last 10 pages? Yeah, probably. She's such an incredibly talented writer. I'm just warning you, you can't be prepared for something like this, but whatever you're thinking, it's more tragic than that. It's more sad than that. It's harder to read than that. Okay, let's move on to something else. Here we go. Let's talk about a couple of books that I read on Kindle, some ARCs that I am so grateful to have received through NetGalley and the publishers who work with NetGalley. So the first one that I have is Reggie and Delilah's Year of Falling by Elise Bryant. This is a YA contemporary. It's the third in a companion series called, I think it's called The Happily Ever Afters. And yeah, I've read the first two in the companion series last year and really enjoyed them, Happily Ever Afters and When True Loves. This one is told in dual POV, unlike those which are told in singular. And it's basically about a girl who wants to be a punk rock singer and a guy who loves Dungeons and Dragons, but is not. They're both I guess struggling with their confidence in different ways. And the story is really about, I mean, plot-wise, it's like they keep happening to run into each other on different holidays throughout the year until it becomes like a purposeful thing where they hang out on holidays, which is cute. But the real story inside is about, you know, like being in a relationship and being like your best self, but making sure that you're authentic and not just acting in the way that like you wish you could be, but really trying to be that person. I thought the lessons in here were really, really great. So yeah, if you're looking for something that is a romance, dual POV with this deeper meaning about being true to yourself and, you know, accepting people for who they are and loving them for who they are, then I would definitely recommend it. The next one that I finished reading through NetGalley was French Kissing in New York by Anne-Sophie Junot. This was highly anticipated for me because I loved her debut, Kisses and Croissants, which is a YA romance as well. So this is a YA romance, like I said. This one is about a French girl who moves to New York to achieve her dream of becoming a chef. And so it definitely shows like the difficulty of like working in a restaurant, especially like in New York City, you know, fast paced, lots of pressure, lots of hours. I definitely thought that that was super immersive, and like I'm not in like the culinary world much. I am a little bit, but not the way that the protagonist is, but I like trusted the writer that she knew what she was talking about, which was cool. Essentially the protagonist goes to New York City to fulfill this, you know, culinary dream, but also she is trying to meet up with this guy that she met for one night in Paris a year prior, and she basically wants to like meet up with him again. They had a whole date, they were gonna meet up, and he doesn't show up, and she thinks there must be some sort of like mistake. And now she spends basically a year like trying to find him. She, with the help of this guy who likes her. So I'm not telling you who she ends up with. I actually genuinely wasn't sure for a while who she would end up with. I wouldn't call it a love triangle, but it's interesting to see where it goes. This was definitely a love letter to New York. I have only been to New York like once. I love reading stories that are love letters to New York. So if you want something like that, I would definitely pick that one up. And then the third book I read on NetGalley was The Love Wager by Lynn Painter, which was so good. If you know me, first of all, I love Lynn Painter as a person. I love Lynn Painter. Shout out Lynn Painter. I love her writing. I love her books. Better Than the Movies, one of my all-time favorites. Better Than the Movies filled a void that I had in my heart for so many years. After reading it in The French Kiss, I was like, no book is ever going to compare again. Boom, Better Than the Movies came out, and I was like, okay, I'm good. So I love that one. I love her second YA, The Do-Over. I'm so excited for her third one, Betting on You. I read her new adult, Mr. Wrong Number, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was very, very, very funny. I'm just not crazy on the whole spice thing, and that book had more spice than I wanted. That has nothing to do with Lynn, that's just my own taste. But man, The Love Wager. The Love Wager was so freaking good. The banter was immaculate. I was like giggling and kicking my feet. Like, I get invested in a story, but I don't go when I'm reading. I don't do that. And I did that when I was reading this book. I was like, please get together, like please. So it's basically about this girl and guy who like meet one night and then like go their separate ways and then match on a dating app, and they decide that they're like not right for each other. It's told in both of their point of views, but they should like both try to date other people and keep each other posted. And basically they plan their dates on the same night and tell each other like, oh, if our dates don't go well, we should like meet up at this taco place, which becomes their like hangout spot. And so they're like debriefing these dates, but like actually really just hanging out, and it's just a sweet like friends to lovers story. It's just so good. It's just so good. I want to reread it already. Like, it was so good. Highly recommend. There is some spice in this book, but I would say less than in Mr. Wrong Number, so just so you know. Okay, the next one I want to talk about is Never Never by Colleen Hoover and Taryn Fisher. I remember when this first came out, it was released in 3 separate parts. I remember when part 1 came out, I binged it, I loved it, I thought it was so interesting, and then I never continued with it. And then recently I saw that all 3 got, you know, binded up and published with this cool new cover, and I was like, I'm gonna pick that up and I'm gonna read that pretty much now. And wow, I really enjoyed this one. I will say that I did not see the ending coming. It's one of those stories where it's like really hard to predict what's gonna happen. It's basically about this girl and guy whose memory suddenly gets swiped and they can't figure out why, and they slowly start to learn who they are to each other. But there's like plot twist after plot twist. It's not even that. It's like there's more than that throughout the story. It's really interesting. I mean, I used to binge Colleen Hoover books all the time, and I haven't read so many in the last few years, so it was great reading more from her, and seeing her collaborate with Taryn Fisher, another author, was interesting. I've never read anything else from Taryn. So definitely enjoyed this one, and it was just different. It was just not what I expected, but not saying that was in a bad way. The next one is Chloe and the Kashao Boys by May Koyuto. I thought this was a debut, but she actually has released one other book. This is a YA, basically about a girl the summer before college. She got into the USC animation program after getting off the wait list. Shout out, Fight On, that's my alma mater. So immediately when I saw USC, I was like, give me. And then I saw that somebody blurbed it and said it was a rom-com, and I was like, please give me. Yeah, so it's basically about this girl whose relatives keep trying to set her up on dates with different guys in their community, and it's just kind of fun to see like who she ends up actually liking. And it just tells the story of like her summer with her family and deciding if she should go to college, if she should stay in the Philippines, which is where she lives. And so there was some really sweet banter in here. There was a great storyline about friendship. It was just like a fun story. I like getting to read about the culture. So if you're looking for something like that, then this might be up your alley. The next one, okay, I'm actually so happy because I've been seeing this book around on YouTube and I'm so happy about it. It's called Never Vacation with Your Ex by Austin Siegman Broca and Emily Wibberley, who are a married couple, and this is the 8th book they've published. They published together. It's so cute. They write YA, they write NA. Here's some cute little graphics I got from them from different books of theirs because I saw them at the book festival last weekend. They signed my book for me. They're so sweet. And I really love this book. This book is basically about a girl and a guy, and they have been best friends forever. Their families go on vacation together to Malibu every summer, but this summer is different because in the last year they dated for a couple months and then she broke his heart. And now they're all together on this vacation and she's teaching him how to get over her. Can you say recipe for disaster? It was so fun. It was so fun, and it was like, again, not what I expected, but in a good way. I mean, the romance in here was great. The friendship in here, the banter, obviously the atmosphere and the setting of Malibu, the beach house. I really, really enjoyed this one, and I do highly recommend it. I think that Austin and Emily are super talented, and I'm excited to read, you know, even more from them. I want to go back and read some of their other books that I haven't read yet. So glad this one is getting some hype online. I'm really, really happy to see that. And of course, I want to talk about Once and For All by Sarah Dessen, which I just finished reading yesterday. I really love this one. I think that Sarah Dessen is super talented, and her books are a lesson in craft. If you're someone who wants to be a writer, I would highly recommend reading her books and studying them and seeing the structure play out. This is probably my favorite book I've read from her. I think I've read about 5 from her at this point, and I've like enjoyed some but haven't been in love with all of them. This one though, I really love, and out of all the ones I've read from her, if I could reread one, I think it would be this one. It's basically about a girl whose mom and mom's best friend own a wedding planning company, and she works for this company, and so she's seen a lot, you know. She's seen marriages fail and be successful, and she's dealing with like her own love stuff. She has some trauma from this like relationship she was in, not in the way you're thinking, but I would look up trigger and content warnings if that's something you feel like you need to do. And she's now like in the current day with this new guy. I mean, not like dating him, but like he works for like the company now too. And it's interesting getting to see like their friendship, but then her also dealing with like her past, and reading about all these weddings was honestly so much fun. I just don't want to give so much away, but yeah, if you're looking to get into Sarah Dessen, she's basically like the queen of YA contemporary romance. If you haven't read anything from her, I really, really would recommend this one. This one is so good. A lot of her books deal with romance and family stuff and emotional stuff. This one definitely had some emotional parts and I definitely did cry, but there's a lot of sweet stuff in here too, so highly recommend it. All right, well, that was my wrap up. Thank you so much, you guys, for watching this video, for clicking on it, for giving a thumbs up, subscribing, commenting. I'm so glad that I'm able to make these videos for you guys and that you're enjoying them. Love getting to talk about the books that I've been currently reading. Let me know what else you want to see from me. Make sure to check me out on social media if you're interested. I'll leave everything down below, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!